Well, it's hard to give a short summary because it was 2 years that psychologically felt like about 5. After our last record, King for a Day, we toured for, I guess, about 8 months, something like that, maybe. 8 months to a year. So there goes 1 year. Then we got back and tried to write some songs, and the guitar player at that time wasn't working out. We couldn't write music with him, so we got rid of him. It took us a few months to figure that out. Then we tried out one of Billy's friends, and it worked pretty quickly.
That's John Hudson, isn't it?
John Hudson.
Could you tell something about him?
He's a heck of a guy. What can I tell you?
He's got short brown hair,
stone face, big dimple right here.
He lost his luggage.
He seems to be playing like he plays in Fate No More for already a few years. Is that something that worked out?
We took a long time in writing these songs. We allowed ourselves a long time for them to develop. And John and Billy worked on them a lot. John worked on his guitar parts a lot in the songs and sort of came up with a sound that, seems real appropriate for Faith No More. What he did come up with. But I think that's because he spent a lot of time on it. I think on this record, more than our others, we didn't let ourselves be rushed into finishing anything that wasn't finished before its time.
Because you could, if you just hear, new guitar player, you should figure that the sound would change a lot.
Yeah, you would think. Maybe when we try something new, it will. But at this point, we wrote some of the songs that we wrote, we wrote without guitar, and then John came in and added stuff. But then John brought in stuff of his own, There's songs on the records that were all John's ideas that are really nice. And the sound of those songs is really different to me than Faith No More has been in the past. So his input was pretty large.
Definitely.
Is the term roller coaster a good one for this album? In terms of slow down, go fast, slow down, go fast?
Yeah, I guess a little bit. Hopefully we can keep that to a minimum, though, because you can get really nauseous after a while. It would be nice to control it a little bit and be able to draw a line and say, okay, we should stop touring now, let's take a little time off. Whether or not we'll be able to do that, I guess, remains to be seen, but that would be nice to be able to do.
But also not only for the way it works out after the album for you guys, but also the sound on the album. Because it's, for a Fate No More album, I figure like the record of contradictions.
This one is a record of contradictions?
This is a record of just the record with like a fast song, a slow song, fast song, just as far as the sound is concerned.
I think more so in earlier albums. Like the record before this one seems to be more like that, more ups, more downs, sort of a little bit wilder in its presentation. This, I think, to the band works more as a sort of a whole. The record unto itself seems to be a sort of steady pace rather than, pulsing up and down.
That's what we intended,
that's
us.
We tried to do that, and that's what we hear. We get different, reads on it from everybody who talks about it or talks to us about it.
Mm-hmm.
No two sets of ears are alike.
Nope. And the term Album of the Year, is it directed to either pop journalists or record company people, or is it just a joke?
It was sort of a joke unto ourselves that we're sharing with you.
Because if you're a pop journalist or working for a record company, you go like, okay, maybe I tell everybody that 20 times a year I got an Album of the Year in my hands.
Right.
So I thought maybe those guys would just...
It's just a nice, strong phrase.
It is.
And you can take it, I guess, in a couple different ways.
what way did the recordings go? Was it a big difference compared to like King for a Day?
We spent a lot of time working on this record, and then a lot of different factions. A couple of us would get together and work on stuff, and then because of availability, some people wouldn't be around, and out of convenience of people's schedule, we sort of did the record in parts more than as a whole. Then at the end of the process, or near the end when all the songs seemed to be almost finished, we got together and sort of mixed it.
And it worked out fine?
Yeah, it worked out fine. Considering, the hectic schedules that we were dealing with, we juggled pretty smoothly.
Because you were, of course, touring with Mr. Bungle.
Yeah, I
think somewhere between...
was doing a bunch of things, yeah.
And over there in Mr. Bungle, you use your voice almost as an instrument, or as an instrument. Did it also work out in this album a lot more, do you think?
Maybe not so much, but that's really not what is appropriate for this band. I mean, we're writing songs with verses and choruses, and that requires singing or yelling or whatever, but the important thing is to realize what is necessary, what is, like I said before, appropriate for a given situation. And in a band environment like this, I figured, what I'm trying to do is just fit into the music rather than go against the grain so much.
But do you never think about maybe I can use my voice like this on this song in a completely other way than you use it usually in songs of Faith No More?
Sometimes, yeah. But sometimes that isn't always the right thing to do. It's not any longer interesting for me to do that just to see what it is going to look like at the end. I want to see the end result in my head first, and then decide what I'm going to do.
What does Mr. Bungle mean to you? Is it an outlet, or is it because you don't want to use your voice that much in Faith No More? Is it a way to use your voice a lot more in another project?
No, it's not that conscious. That's just the way. They're two separate bands with two completely different visions, and there's really no similarity whatsoever.
Will there be a third album?
There'll be another album.
When?
I don't know yet.
After the Faith No More tour.
There's no big rush. There's no big hurry.
Because I figure we'll be touring again for a long time now, and it hasn't been like the first tour now. It's like you've been touring for, I don't know what, 15 years now already, because it's an album touring. And you see a lot of bands, quit after 12 years, but how the hell do you keep yourselves alive?
We're at a point where, it works in a real cyclical fashion. We'll put out a record, and then we'll tour the record. While we're making a record, we're at home and sort of, doing our own things. The pain of that isn't as, ridiculous as a touring schedule. A touring schedule is really hectic, but we only do that, we'll do that maybe for, 6 months, 8 months, something. But then we have a lot of time off, so you can sort of gear up to, to us it's sort of second nature.
Is it something you get used to then?
Yeah, sure.
Definitely. Sure. It's like jumping into cold water. You look at the water first and say, oh my God, I don't want to get in. It's so cold, but your body gets used to it immediately, within 30 seconds.
But there should be some points, and I mean, it's a ridiculous question, but there should be some points during whatever, or touring or being at home, you go like, fuck, I don't want to do this anymore.
Of course. And many times. How many times do you ask yourself that question?
Not that many times.
Yeah?
Not
you
that
will.
many?
You will. Don't worry.
Okay.
It's natural. There's nothing wrong with that.